The film opens with Colt Seavers, a seasoned stuntman, reflecting on the pivotal role of stunt performers in Hollywood history. He's known for taking hard hits but remains dedicated to his craft. Colt's personal life revolves around Jody Moreno, a talented camera operator with dreams of directing. In his latest project, Colt is doing stunts for major Hollywood actor Tom Ryder, which the movie is produced by Gail Meyer. Colt gears himself up to a harness to film a scene where he takes a big fall. But something goes wrong and Colt hits the ground and severely injures his back. The accident forces him to leave both the stunt industry and Jody, whom he loves deeply. Cut to 18 months later, Colt is working as a valet, still grappling with the fallout from his injury and estrangement from Jody. He is spotted by a former co-worker who refers to him as the fall guy, and so Colt brings his car back aggressively and by doing donuts in front of him. One day, Colt is approached by Gail Meyer. She offers him a chance to return to stunt work on a new blockbuster sci-fi film titled Metalstorm, which Jody is directing. Reluctant at first, Colt eventually agrees upon learning about Jody's involvement. Back on set, Colt reunites with his friend and seasoned stunt coordinator, Dan Tucker. Despite the professional reunion, tensions surface as Colt grapples with his emotions about Jody. His first major stunt back is a high-risk cannon roll. Colt complained about the wet sand and doing cannon roll is risky. However, Dan conveyed him by saying this is very important scene for Jody. Later Colt agreed. The crew goes ahead with the cannon roll stunt, with Colt's car tumbling across a beach. However, he successfully executes the stunt. When Jody sees Colt as the stuntman, she is displeased to see him after such a long time away. The reunion with Jody is fraught with unresolved feelings and awkwardness, exacerbated by their history and the circumstances surrounding Colt's departure from the industry. For his next stunt, he is set on fire and blown against a wall. On set, Colt and Jody engage in a conversation meant to analyze the technical aspects of the scene. However, their discussion quickly turns into personal territory. They talk about their strained relationship and unresolved issues in front of the entire crew. This public display of their private issues creates an awkward atmosphere on set, with most of the crew sympathize with Jody's perspective. After the stunt, Colt goes to meet Gail. Gail informed Ryder goes missing under suspicious circumstances, jeopardizing the film's production. Gail tasks Colt with finding Ryder within 48 hours to save the project and protect Jody's directorial debut. Colt then goes to his car and reminisces about his time with Jody while listening to Taylor Swift and crying before Jody shows up, and he has to play it cool. She gets in the car with him and talks about how important the film is for her, and he promises not to derail the production for her. Colt goes to Ryder's apartment to try and find him but gets attacked by Iggy Starr, Ryder's girlfriend and the main actress of Metalstorm. After a bit of crashing around the place, Colt finds that Iggy is using a prop sword and he then tries to explain that he is looking for Ryder for the film Sake. Iggy tells him to go to a nightclub that Ryder goes to and to look for his drug dealer. Colt gets into the club by dressing flashy and meets the drug dealer, Dune. When Colt asks for Ryder, Dune instead gives Colt a drug drink and tries to have his guys deal with him. Colt starts tripping but manages to beat up 3 goons before chasing Dune outside as he tries to catch a cab. Colt jumps in front of the cab and stops Dune from getting away. He tells Colt that he was paid to drug him and directs him to a hotel to find someone named Kevin and to ask for a fruit platter. Colt also hallucinates seeing a unicorn. At the hotel, Colt coincidentally meets Jody, who confides in him about studio interference in her artistic vision for the film. Despite their strained history, they bond over shared frustrations and lingering affection. Colt then meets the concierge, Kevin, who gives him a fruit platter, which is just the key to Ryder's hotel room. After a few unsuccessful tries with the door key, Colt breaks into the room by knocking the door down. Inside Ryder's room, Colt discovers a shocking scene: a dead stuntman named Henry Herrera. Panicked, Colt contacts Gail, who advises him not to talk to the police, but he does so anyway because one officer approaches him because he is illegally parked. When Colt mentions the body in the tub of ice, they return to Ryder's room to find the tub completely empty, adding to the mystery and Colt's growing suspicion of foul play. On the next day of shooting, Dan complains that Jody was inspired by whatever she discussed with Colt since she has bigger and more complicated ideas for the shoot. Colt stands in for Ryder so that they can use deepfake technology and add Ryder's face to the final product. At the end of the day, Jody extends an invitation to Colt for karaoke, which he accepts, signaling a possible reconciliation. On his way, Colt runs into Alma Martin, Tom Ryder's assistant, accompanied by a trained dog named Jean-Claude. Alma reveals she last saw Tom and Henry at a wild party before being called away by Gail Meyer. Alma has Tom's phone, which contains incriminating information, and she is willing to hand it over to Colt in exchange for a producer credit on Metal Storm. He says he will see what he can do. As Colt and Alma discuss the terms, they are interrupted by Dressler, the head of security. Dressler teases them before abducting Alma in his truck. Colt, with dog, steals a truck and chases after Dressler. Meanwhile, Jody waits at the karaoke bar, growing disappointed as Colt fails to show up. She performs, against all odds, a song reflecting her feelings of abandonment and longing. The chase intensifies as Colt and dog catch up to Dressler's van. Colt engages in a fight with Dressler's goons, with dog biting the goons, aiding Colt in overpowering them. Dog helps Alma by attacking the driver, enabling them to stop the van. Colt crashes through the windshield but emerges unscathed. After saving Alma, he then runs with the dog to the karaoke bar only to find Dan there. Dan informs Colt that Jody has already left, Colt's missed opportunity to reconcile with her. Colt and Dan give Ryder's phone to fellow crew member Venti to hack into, but she needs his password. The guys go to Ryder's apartment and go through his wide range of stick note reminders until they manage to find the password written in plain sight, after they unlocks the phone. Colt and Dan find a video of Ryder, Iggy, and some of his buddies with Henry. In the video, Henry makes a sarcastic remark about Ryder not performing his own stunts, implying a lack of real courage. To prove his abilities, Ryder tries a stunt on Henry, only to accidentally knock Henry over and kill him. This incident is captured on the video. Moments later, Venti calls Dan to inform the guys that the news is reporting on Henry's death and naming Colt as the prime suspect. Soon, Dressler and his goons suddenly appear, opening fire on Colt and Dan. The unexpected attack forces Colt and Dan to react quickly, engaging in a fierce firefight. In the midst of the chaos, Dressler manages to shoot and destroy Ryder's phone, which Colt is holding. This phone contains critical evidence related to Henry's accidental death. Colt and Dan fight off several goons. Colt makes a daring move to escape. He heads outside and spots Ryder's boat. Colt jumps onto Ryder's boat, crashing through the roof. He then finds himself face to face with Ryder before getting knocked out cold. Colt wakes up to find himself tied up, with Ryder demanding his phone back. He admits to killing Henry and setting up Colt to be the fall guy for the crime, as well as informing him that the entire cover-up was Gail's idea after he went crying to her. Ryder also admits that he set up Colt's accident because he felt Colt was stealing his thunder. Simultaneously, Gail meets with Jody to falsely implicate Colt in Henry's murder, further complicating the situation and undermining Colt's credibility. After Colt admits that Dressler destroyed the phone, Ryder orders his goons to douse Colt with kerosene, intending to kill him and frame it as suicide, but he gets some in his mouth and spits it at Dressler when he tries to light him up, creating an opportunity for Colt to escape. Colt manages to hop on a boat and steer it backward in a desperate bid to escape. During the chase, he tries to contact Jody, but Gail intentionally gets her phone wet before Jody can answer his call. Colt eventually manages to reach Jody and tries to explain himself and how much he loves her, but the villains chase after him and cause his boat to crash and explode, though he manages to jump to safety. Colt is presumed dead, and it is billed a suicide, while the villains use the deepfake tech to use Colt's face on Ryder's body in the video showing Ryder killing Henry. Colt reaches Dan and gets help sneaking back onto set in disguise as an alien from the movie. Jody beats him up due to the confusion until he reveals himself. Before Colt can explain himself, Jody embraces him with a kiss, but the moment is ruined with Gail outside. Jody hides Colt and hears Gail talk about Colt's supposed death, as well as trying to do Jody's big car jump stunt for the film in VFX and focusing on Ryder's epic final monologue. After Gail leaves, Colt and Jody organize a plan to get Ryder to confess to the murder by getting him to make him do the car jump himself, since he will be wearing a mic, and he usually forgets he is being recorded, so he is always seen or heard saying whatever he wants unfiltered. The crew gets ready for the big scene and shoots Ryder's monologue. Jody gets Ryder into the car by saying she needs a close-up of him. Colt reveals himself and begins to drive the car away, prompting Dressler and his goons to go after him. Jody and Dan help keep the goons off Colt long enough until he gets Ryder to admit to killing Henry and saying Gale came up with the frame job before Colt pulls off the epic jump across a canyon, which knocks Ryder unconscious. Gale then gets a chopper to come get her and Ryder after she steals his confession tape. With help from Jody, Colt is thrown toward the helicopter and fights both Gale and Ryder until he gets the tape back and jumps down onto a crash mat set up by the crew at the right time. Colt and Jody celebrate their victory with a kiss. Metal Storm eventually hits theaters with Jason Momoa replacing Ryder as the lead actor. The film becomes a major hit, and Alma gets her producer credit. Colt says that while the heroes in the film got their happy ending, he and Jody got theirs as well. The movie ends here. For more content like this, subscribe Recap Verse.